Undersized underdog. These players show up on the court looking like they missed the growth spurt memo, and yet they end up making the biggest noise. They're too short by NBA standards, often ignored in the draft, and constantly told they can't make it. But they don't listen. They grind. They scrap for every opportunity and fight like their spot could vanish tomorrow. The league loves measurables, but these guys force teams to respect the immeasurable. Fred VanVleet is a textbook case. He went undrafted in 2016, even after leading Wichita State to national attention. He stands just 6 feet tall and doesn't wow anyone at the combine, but none of that stopped him. He clawed his way up through the G League, earned minutes, and eventually became a full-time starter. He didn't just show up in the 2019 finals, he showed out, hitting huge shots and helping Toronto win it all. From there, all-star nod and a $100 million contract. That's not luck. That's what happens when talent meets relentless effort. Fred didn't wait for approval. He took it. That's what makes the undersized underdog so fun to watch. They just won't quit. Flopper. The flopper lives in every fan base's nightmares. They turn the basketball court into a stage, acting out every bump and nudge like they're auditioning for a soap opera. These guys aren't just selling fouls. They're practically hosting yard sales. They exaggerate contact that would barely move a toddler, falling back like they've been hit by a truck. But here's the thing. It works. It drives fans nuts, but it changes games. Refs buy into the drama, and suddenly the flopper's walking to the line while everyone else is staring in disbelief. These players are sneaky. They bait defenders, lure them in, then snap their heads back like they just took a punt. Offensive foul. Crowd erupts. The other team's rattled. The refs are flustered. And somehow, momentum shifts. It's annoying, it's manipulative, but it's smart. You can't ignore the impact. Marcus Smart basically wrote the flopper handbook. He's not dirty. He's just constantly performing. He flies across the court, drawing charges with the grace of a theater major. Opponents hate him for it, but he forces refs to make calls. It's not pretty, but it works every single time. Pass first point God. These are the maestros of the hardwood, the ones who treat a basketball like a conductor's baton. They're not out there hunting for shots or trying to drop 40 every night. They're running the show, always thinking 2 steps ahead, making sure the right guy gets the ball at the right time. Everything flows through them. Their court vision is ridiculous, threading passes through defenders like they've got X-ray vision. You'll barely notice them scoring, but you'll definitely notice how everyone around them suddenly looks way better. These players turn decent offenses into well-oiled machines. Chris Paul is the blueprint here. He's climbed into the top 5 in all-time assists, and it's not by accident. He reads defenses like he's flipping through a picture book. He controls pace, gets guys easy looks, and never seems rattled. His whole style screams precision. And it's not just the stats. Teams win more when he's running point. They move better, score smarter, and just look more competent. That nickname, Point God, it's earned. He doesn't dominate with flash, he dominates with control. That's what makes this archetype so respected. They're not chasing numbers. They're chasing greatness through team success. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Lazy Star. The Lazy Star's got the tools, the talent, and the highlight reels. But something's always missing. They'll give you 20 points while looking half asleep. They'll jump out of the gym one play, then disappear for the next 10. Coaches pull their hair out, fans beg for effort, but the Lazy Star just jogs along like nothing's wrong. They've got the gifts to be elite, but the fire, that comes and goes like bad Wi-Fi. You watch them and think, if they just tried, but that's the thing. They don't, or not enough. The Lazy Star skips the hustle plays, floats on defense, and coasts through games like it's preseason. And still, somehow, they produce. That's what makes it worse. They'll drop 25 without breaking a sweat, while the gym rat on the bench is out there foaming at the mouth for 5 minutes of run. Andrew Wiggins, before Golden State, was this guy. Unreal hops, smooth jumper, zero urgency. One night, he looked unstoppable. The next, he was a ghost. Fans kept waiting for the switch to flip. It didn't, until much later. Until then, he was the face of wasted potential, wrapped in highlight dunks. Loyal franchise guy. These are the players who plant their flag and stay put, no matter what. They don't chase super teams or bounce around trying to stack trophies. They grind it out with one squad through the ugly rebuilds, the early playoff exits, the locker room chaos. You name it, they're all in, year after year. This archetype becomes the face of the franchise, the one constant fans can rely on. They grow up with the city, ride every high and low, and turn loyalty into legacy. Kobe Bryant is the perfect example. He played 20 seasons with the Los Angeles Lakers, which is the most ever by a guard. He stayed when it would have been easier to leave. He dealt with team drama, coaching changes, and even trade rumors, but never bolted. Instead, he evolved. He adapted to every phase of the team and kept competing. He led the Lakers to 5 championships and became the franchise's all-time leading scorer. He wasn't just a player, he became a symbol. The Mamba mentality, wasn't just a mindset, it was a message. Stay loyal, stay fierce, and leave your mark on one jersey. That's what defines a loyal franchise guy. Dirty player. The dirty player is not just physical, they're calculated chaos. This archetype thrives on crossing the line just enough to disrupt everything without always getting tossed. Elbows sneak in under the basket, hands grab jerseys when no one's looking, and every possession feels like a scuffle waiting to happen. They bait opponents, stir emotions, and make everything uncomfortable. Teammates might call it grit, but opponents just call it dirty. And it's not just physical, it's mental warfare too. They'll stare down refs, start feuds, rack up technicals, and somehow keep swinging the game their way. It's messy, it's aggressive, and it works more often than anyone wants to admit. Draymond Green lives in this role. He's not pretending. From full-on kicks to wrestling matches mid-game, his highlight reel could double as evidence. That suspension in the 2016 finals? Classic. Stomping on Sabonis, choking Gobert, kicking Steven Adams. It's all part of the Draymond experience. He racks up technicals like he's collecting stamps, and yet he's a 4-time champion who quarterbacks their defense like a genius. He's loud, reckless, and polarizing, but every bit of it feeds into his impact. Draymond defines this archetype completely. Silent killer. These are the guys who could walk past you in the hallway, and you'd have no idea they just dropped 30 in a playoff game. They don't flex after big shots. They don't start drama, and they definitely aren't posting motivational captions after practice. They just show up, lock in, and dismantle whoever's in front of them. Their poker face never cracks, whether they're torching you on offense or locking you up on defense. Kawhi Leonard is the perfect example. He barely says anything on or off the court, but you can't miss his impact. He's methodical, calculated, and doesn't waste motion. Everything he does has purpose. That buzzer beater in 2019, cold, didn't even blink. He led both San Antonio and Toronto to championships and never tried to make it about himself. He's not chasing the spotlight. He's chasing wins. His calm is almost unnerving, like he's already thought 2 steps ahead of everyone else. And the best part, he'll bury your team without saying a word. That's what makes the silent killer so dangerous. You don't see it coming, and by the time you notice, it's already over. Coach killer. The coach killer doesn't throw chairs or scream at the clipboard, but somehow coaches just keep losing jobs around them. They bring a storm of expectations, power, and drama. Sometimes they clash with authority, sometimes they ignore the system entirely, but the outcome's always the same. Coaches come and go while the star stays untouched. They might publicly deny issues, but the tension simmers. Locker room split, trust erodes. And when the season flames out, guess who's the scapegoat? Not the star. It's always the clipboard guy. The coach killer's talent buys them time. Coaches, not so lucky. James Harden might as well be the president of this club. 6 head coaches in under 10 years? That's not bad luck. That's a trend. He had major pull in Houston, backing Mike D'Antoni, then watched him walk. In Brooklyn, everything unraveled around Steve Nash and Kyrie, and Harden bailed mid-season. Philly wasn't much better, calling the general manager a liar while Doc Rivers got the boot. And he's never been thrilled about rigid systems. He wants isolation, control, space to cook. He's a brilliant scorer, no doubt. But when coaches start sweating, Harden's usually somewhere in the frame. Human highlight, real. These are the players who make you pause the game, rewind it, and shout at your screen like it just did something personal. They bring fireworks every night with dunks that defy gravity, hang time that feels illegal, and finishes that look like they broke a video game. They don't need the ball every possession, but when they get it, watch out. They're jumping over defenders, contorting midair, and leaving fans with their jaws on the floor. Aaron Gordon fits this perfectly. His dunk contest showdowns in 2016 and 2020? Unreal. People still argue he should have won both, but he doesn't just save the highlights for All-Star Weekend. He does it in real games too. Transition dunks, backdoor lobs, and fast break posters. It's nonstop. He combines ridiculous vertical with finesse, which makes him unpredictable and impossible to look away from. Even now in Denver, where his role's more balanced, the highlights haven't stopped. He's still flying around and putting defenders on posters like it's personal. The numbers might not always pop, but the clips? Instant classics. That's what makes the human highlight reel so magnetic. You never know what's coming, but it's never boring. Fake tough guy. The fake tough guy plays the role of intimidator, but it's all theater. They puff their chest, talk nonstop, and try to sell fear. But when push comes to shove, literally, they vanish. This archetype thrives on antics, flexing after routine fouls, mean mugging after layups, and running their mouth like it's a podcast. They love being in the middle of scuffles, but never actually start one or end one. Real enforcers see right through it. The fake tough guy might jump into a crowd to hold someone back or act like they're about to fight, but they never actually want the smoke. It's just noise, just drama, just another way to get on a highlight reel without doing anything real. Patrick Beverley has made a career out of this. He talks more than just about anyone, acts like every possession is a war, and celebrates like he hit a game winner in the first quarter. But when things escalate, he's already walking the other way. He'll poke stars, flop for calls, and sell the illusion of toughness, but when someone actually pushes back, the act crumbles. He's loud, animated, and fearless until he's not. Defensive menace. These are the guys who make scorers wish they called in sick. They're glued to your hip from tip-off to buzzer, poking at the ball, cutting off angles, and forcing you into ugly, off-balance shots. They don't care about dropping 30. They care about making sure you don't. They'll guard anyone, anywhere, and never take a play off. It's not about glory. It's about grit. Jrue Holiday is the prototype. He's the defender players hate going up against. Strong, quick, and smarter than your average possession, he can hound smaller guards or body up wings without blinking. His footwork is surgical, and his timing on steals is so precise, it's like he's got your playbook. He's made a habit of clamping stars. Steph, Dame, whoever's hot. And he does it without drama, just quiet destruction. During the Bucks' 2021 title run, his defense was game-changing. He turned momentum with hustle and lockdown stops, not flashy stats. He earns respect the hard way, by making great players look average. The defensive menace doesn't need the spotlight. He steals it, and if you're across from him, good luck getting it back. One-way chucker. The one-way chucker isn't interested in team ball, defense, or anything resembling structure. They've got one thing on the brain, and it's getting shots up. This archetype hijacks possessions like it's a solo mixtape, pulling up with no hesitation and usually no open look either. They take bad shots, skip obvious passes, and ignore defensive responsibilities, like they're allergic to effort. Coaches cringe, teammates get frozen out, and offensive flow dies, a slow, painful death. They might rack up points, but it's usually inefficient and almost never moves the needle on winning. The stats look fine until you actually watch the games. Jordan Poole, during his Washington days, was basically the chucker in its purest form. He'd launch from 30 feet with a hand in his face, shake his head like he was cooking, then brick it completely. Cold shooting nights didn't slow him down. He'd just keep gunning. Meanwhile, his man on defense would cut back door for another easy bucket while Poole stood flat-footed. His numbers popped, but the Wizards kept losing. He wasn't facilitating, wasn't defending, and wasn't adjusting, just firing. It wasn't team basketball, it was just Jordan Poole versus the air. Clutch sniper. These are the killers with a jumper. Players who wait for crunch time like it's dessert. The lights get brighter, the pressure builds, and that's exactly when they start cooking. They don't just shoot threes, they launch them off the dribble from way downtown, right in your face. And when the game's on the line, they're not looking to pass. They're looking to end it. Damian Lillard is exactly that kind of threat. The man turned Dame time into a basketball timestamp. Those buzzer beaters over Houston in 2014 and Oklahoma City in 2019, stone cold. He doesn't care if it's 5 feet behind the line. If he's got space, he's pulling. And the worst part for defenders, he hits them consistently. His range stretches past the logo, and his confidence somehow stretches even further. He's always near the top in clutch scoring and percentage, but it's not just about numbers. It's about impact. When Lillard rises up in the final seconds, you already know what's coming. He's fearless, calculated, and brutally efficient. That's the clutch sniper. Less talk, more buckets. And when the clock starts bleeding, that's when they start firing. Game over. Always injured. The always injured archetype is one of the most frustrating in the league. These players are walking highlights when they're on the court, but they're barely on it. Every season starts with hope, and every season turns into a medical update. They flash greatness, dominate for short stretches, then vanish into another rehab stint. It's a cycle of hype, injuries, disappointment, and waiting. You never question their talent. It's their availability that ruins the story. Teams build around them, fans buy in, but their bodies never cooperate. Eventually, it stops being about what they've done and becomes all about what they might have done if they just stayed healthy. Zion Williamson is stuck in this loop. When he plays, he looks like a cheat code. Brute strength, ridiculous bounce, impossible to guard. But the problem is, he's barely out there. Foot problems, soft tissue injuries, weight concerns. He's missed more games than he's played in some seasons. Every time he looks ready to take over, something breaks down. Fans keep waiting, coaches keep hoping, and the ceiling just stays untouched. He's not overrated, he's just unavailable. Zion's talent is real. His time on the floor just isn't. High IQ vet. These are the players who've seen it all and still know exactly what to do. They don't need to score 20 or fly through the air. They win possessions with brains, not bounce. Every cut, switch, and pass is calculated. They see the game 2 plays ahead, and they make everyone around them sharper. Coaches trust them in tight moments because they won't panic. Younger guys look to them because they've already made the mistakes and learn. Iggy fits this mold like a glove. He wasn't just on the court for Golden State's dynasty. He was part of the engine. His defense was always precise, guarding stars by knowing their tendencies and staying a step ahead. He passed up good shots for better ones and always kept the ball moving. His Finals MVP in 2015 wasn't about stats. It was about smarts. He changed games with timing, leadership, and trust. Even in his late 30s, teams wanted him for what he brought off the stat sheet. He wasn't out there to chase numbers. He was out there to win. That's what defines the high IQ vet. They play chess while everyone else plays checkers. Empty stats guy. The empty stats guy can light up the box score, but it rarely leads to wins. They're the players who post gaudy numbers on teams going nowhere. On paper, they look like stars. 20 points here, 15 rebounds there. But when it's time to win games, they fade into the background. Their stats come in the low-pressure minutes, on rosters with no real expectations. They dominate touches, inflate their role, and rack up numbers that don't shift the outcome. There's no leadership, no defense, and no impact when it matters. It's production with no purpose, and everyone sees through it when the team keeps missing the playoff. Kevin Love in Minnesota was this to a T. He'd drop over 20 points and snag 15 rebounds regularly, but the Timberwolves never sniffed the postseason. He was a defensive weak spot and didn't make others better. His big nights didn't equal wins, and the team stayed stuck in the lottery. Once he left and joined a real contender, his role shrunk, and he finally found team success. In Minnesota, though, he was the classic empty stats guy. Talented, yes, but leading nowhere fast, while the numbers kept piling up. Humble superstar. These are the guys putting up Hall of Fame numbers while acting like they're just happy to be part of the group chat. They lead teams, dominate games, and stack trophies, but they do it without the noise. No chest pounding, no sound bites, no drama, just quiet, relentless excellence. They lift everyone around them while dodging every spotlight thrown their way. Tim Duncan is the gold standard here. 5 championships, 2 MVPs, 15 All-Star selections. And you'd never catch him bragging once. He didn't talk trash, didn't chase headlines, and never needed to remind anyone how great he was. He just showed up and worked. He took pay cuts so the Spurs could stay competitive. He deferred credit to teammates, and he never let ego get in the way of winning. You'd watch him dominate a playoff game, then see him thank the ball boy in the post-game interview. That's the humble superstar. They don't play for attention. They play for legacy. Duncan built one of the greatest careers ever, and he did it without ever needing to raise his voice. That quiet approach, it speaks louder than anything else. On the court, flaky teammate. The flaky teammate isn't a problem because they lack skill. They're a problem because no one knows if they'll even show up. One week they're locked in, dropping highlights and leading the charge. The next, they're missing games for personal reasons, sparking headlines, or going silent without warning. Coaches can't game plan around them, teammates can't rely on them, and front offices hold their breath every time there's a press conference. They bring drama, tension, and distraction, often putting their personal agenda ahead of team goals. It's exhausting. You get flashes of greatness, but they're surrounded by questions, explanations, and chaos. Kyrie in Brooklyn was this on full display. One night, he'd drop 40 and make it look easy, then vanish from the team without a clear reason. He missed huge chunks of time, not for injuries, but for personal choices and controversies that constantly shifted the spotlight away from basketball. The chemistry never clicked, the super team fell apart, and even inside the organization, people started doubting his commitment. His talent's never been the issue. It's always been availability, focus, and consistency. Kyrie made Brooklyn unpredictable, sometimes incredible, but always unstable. Comeback story. These are the players who get knocked down hard, but never stay there. They deal with injuries, get traded, doubted, or just plain forgotten. But instead of folding, they grind. They fight through the setbacks, silence the noise, and climb all the way back, step by brutal step. Derrick Rose is that story. He became the youngest MVP in league history, exploding onto the scene with speed and skill nobody could stop. Then came the injuries, devastating ones. Multiple knee surgeries, years lost, teams giving up on him. At one point, he almost walked away from the game completely, but he didn't. He rebuilt everything, his body, his role, and his mindset. In 2018, he dropped 50 points in one of the most emotional performances of the decade. That wasn't just a stat line, it was a message. He wasn't done. He's since become a steady veteran, a leader off the bench, and a player fans adore in every city he's played. Rose didn't just return, he reinvented. That's what makes the comeback story so powerful. It's not about getting back to the top. It's about earning every inch after the fall. Me First Star. The Me First Star might put up huge numbers, hit game winners, and light up the scoreboard, but everything revolves around them. This archetype demands the ball, thrives on isolation, and slows down the offense so they can get theirs. They're allergic to passing unless it leads directly to an assist, And the only system they like is the one where they're taking every shot. Teammates become bystanders. Coaches lose their voices, and the team usually underachieves no matter how stacked the roster looks. These players chase legacy through stats, not wins. Carmelo Anthony, during his prime Knicks era, checked every one of these boxes. He was a walking bucket, no doubt, but the offense stopped moving the second he touched the ball. He resisted roles that didn't put him in the spotlight, struggled in off-ball systems, and rarely adjusted for the good of the group. While his stat sheet stayed full, the Knicks kept stalling out in the early playoff rounds. Even when surrounded by talent, the ball stuck to him like glue. Late in his career, he eventually took a step back, but the "Me First" label had already been tattooed on his prime years. Big Who passes. These are the big men who throw dimes like their running point, except they're 6'10" and built like a brick wall. Instead of just backing guys down and dunking, they read the floor, thread passes through traffic, and make the offense hum from the elbows. They're not out there to be statues in the paint. They're creators. Sabonis lives in that role. He's the heartbeat of Sacramento's offense, operating out of the high post and constantly dishing out dribble handoffs, backdoor assists, and quick reads. He averages more than 7 assists per game as a center, which is wild. He sets brutal screens and immediately looks to pass, keeping defenders guessing. When he grabs a rebound, he doesn't wait. He launches outlet passes to start the break. Sabonis isn't looking to rack up ISO points or force the action. He's the glue guy with vision, making sure the ball keeps moving and everybody eats. That's what makes the Big Who passes so fun. It's the blend of size, skill, and smarts. And Sabonis, he doesn't just fit the archetype, he's redefining it in real time. Contract year hooper. The contract year hooper suddenly turns into a world beater right before payday. For most of their career, they're fine. Sometimes decent, sometimes forgettable. But once that deal's on the horizon, they flip a switch. Suddenly they're hustling on defense, knocking down shots, and doing all the little things they ignored before. Coaches love the effort, fans buy into the breakout, and front offices start prepping the checkbook. Then the ink dries, and it all vanishes. The intensity fades, the numbers dip, and the same player who looked like a budding star suddenly blends back into the background. Otto Porter mastered this act in the 2016-17 season. He shot the lights out, defended with purpose, and looked like a core piece for Washington's future. The Wizards handed him over $100 million and almost instantly regretted it. Post-contract, he battled injuries and rarely resembled the guy who earned that max deal. The effort dropped, the impact disappeared, and the production never matched the price tag. Teams learned the hard way that not all breakouts are built to last. Porter became the warning label every general manager reads before free agency. Fan favorite bench guy. These are the players who check in and instantly make the crowd lose it. They're not putting up all-star numbers, but fans don't care. They love them for the effort, the energy, and the way they play like every possession might be their last. These guys sprint after loose balls, throw their bodies around on defense, and hype up teammates like it's their full-time job. Alex Caruso fits this perfectly. He came up from the G League and turned into a must-watch piece of every rotation he's been in. His hustle is nonstop, diving on the floor, making steals, and doing the dirty work that never shows up on the scoreboard. And then he'll throw down a dunk that makes the whole arena explode. He earned the nickname Bald Mamba for a reason. Fans didn't just like him, they adored him. It wasn't about the minutes or the stats. It was about how hard he played and how much he cared. Caruso didn't need the spotlight. He just earned it with grit and heart. That's the fan favorite bench guy. Unselfish, all in, and impossible not to root for. Ring chaser. The ring chaser is that veteran who's done everything except win it all and decides to fix that by joining a ready-made contender. They're not chasing stats anymore. They're chasing jewelry. These players take less money, accept bench roles, and slide into locker rooms full of stars just to grab that one missing piece of their career. They're often past their athletic prime, but they bring experience, toughness, and just enough left in the tank to matter when it counts. Publicly, they'll say it's about the team, the culture, the brotherhood, but really, it's about the banner. Gary Payton turned this into a textbook case. After years dominating in Seattle, being an elite defender and all-star, he still had no ring. By the time he hit Miami, he was 37. Clearly not the same guy, but he didn't need to be. He came off the bench, took limited minutes, and watched Dwayne Wade lead the charge. Payton filled a vet role, played spot minutes, and finally got his title in 2006. It wasn't about carrying the team anymore. It was about finishing the job. He earned the ring, but not in the way fans remembered him best. Rookie phenom. These are the players who don't tiptoe into the NBA. They kick the door down. From the very first game, it's clear they're different. They're putting up stats that veterans dream about, playing like the league isn't even fast enough to keep up. The lights don't faze them. The pressure? They wear it like a warm-up jacket. Victor Wembanyama is that guy. In his first season, he averaged over 20 points, double-digit boards, and blocked shots like he was swatting flies. He's 7'4" but moves like a guard, handles like a wing, and pulls up from deep like it's casual. He didn't just play well, he changed the game plan for every team facing him, on both ends. Offensively, he's stretching the floor and dunking over defenders. Defensively, he's erasing shots and scaring anyone who dares to drive. People watch Spurs games just to see what he'd do next, and he made it worth it. He's not just a future star, he's already playing like one. That's the rookie phenom. They don't ease into greatness. They show up, deliver, and make the whole league stop and stare like, wait, he's just getting started? Locker room cancer. The locker room cancer might be talented, but everything around them eventually crumbles. This archetype brings drama, like it's part of the uniform. They feud with coaches, spark tension with teammates, and leave a trail of frustration behind. Practices get awkward. Team meetings become therapy sessions. And eventually, the front office starts thinking subtraction might be addition. They rarely take accountability, often shift blame, and drain the energy out of even the most promising rosters. Winning gets harder when they're around, not because they can't hoop, but because no one wants to hoop with them. Dwight Howard's mid-career stretch was a masterclass in this mess. He torched his exit from Orlando, clashing with Stan Van Gundy and creating one of the most cringeworthy moments in team history. Then came the Lakers in 2013, where he butted heads with Kobe Bryant and looked disengaged more often than dominant. In Houston, the story didn't change. He clashed with James Harden, got labeled uncoachable, and wore out his welcome once again. Teams seemed lighter after he left, and teammates weren't shy about hinting why. He had the tools, but his presence kept making teams worse, not better. Lockdown wing. These are the guys who turn highlight machines into afterthoughts. They don't chase steals or go for wild blocks. They just make sure your favorite scorer spends the night getting nowhere. They slide their feet, use their length, and contest everything without flinching. No drama, no nonsense. Just pure defense. Jaden McDaniels fits this perfectly. He's 6'10" with arms that stretch forever, but it's his discipline that sets him apart. He doesn't gamble, doesn't bite on fakes. He just stays in front of you, contesting every inch. He's the guy teams throw at stars like Booker or Tatum and say good luck. And more often than not, it works. McDaniels isn't out there demanding touches. He brings energy without needing the ball, and his teammates feed off that. Minnesota's defense doesn't reach elite status without him. He's always locked in, always making things miserable for whoever draws the assignment. That's the lockdown wing in action. No need for big talk, just big-time defense. Every night, he clocks in, erases threats, and walks off like it's business as usual. Because for him, it is. Excuse machine. The excuse machine always has an explanation locked and loaded, just never one that involves themselves. When shots aren't falling or the team's collapsing, they're quick to point the finger anywhere but the mirror. Coaches made the wrong call. Teammates didn't space the floor. The media twisted their words. Maybe it's an injury this time, or a misunderstood role. The pattern never changes. This archetype dodges blame with the agility they don't show on defense. And every poor stat line comes with a detailed excuse package. Accountability, that's for someone else. Ben Simmons has turned this into performance art. After his infamous meltdown in the 2021 playoffs, he refused to shoot in key moments, then subtly threw teammates and coaches under the bus. Since then, it's been a parade of reasons. Mental health updates, lingering back pain, confusion about his role. But the communication has been inconsistent, and his commitments constantly in question. He skipped games, clashed with the Sixers, and forced a trade without owning his struggle. Every interview feels like a dodge. Every setback comes with spin. He's got elite gifts, but the only thing more consistent than his excuses is the disappointment that follows them. Resurrected journeymen. These are the players who've seen it all. Benches, buyouts, trades, and teams that forgot they existed. They get moved around so much, fans barely have time to buy the jersey. But somewhere along the way, they find the right role, the right fit, and boom, they're back. Not just back, but thriving. Jeff Green's entire career is this archetype in motion. He was a high draft pick, showed flashes early, then faced a brutal setback with heart surgery. After that, it was team after team, over 10 stops in total. He became the guy you'd see in a new jersey every year, wondering if he'd ever stick. But he never quit. He adapted. He stayed ready. And in the 20s, he finally found his groove again, becoming a steady, respected role player for contenders like Brooklyn and Denver. He played smart, defended hard, and knocked down big shots. That perseverance paid off in 2023 when he won a ring with the Nuggets. Not bad for a guy so many gave up on. That's the resurrected journeyman. Maybe forgotten for a while, but never done. When the moment comes, they make sure it's worth the wait. Trade Demand Diva. The Trade Demand Diva isn't just trying to hoop, they're trying to run the team too. This archetype brings elite talent, but zero patience. The moment things get bumpy, the drama ramps up. They want input on rosters, coaching, rotations, sometimes even front office moves. And when they feel ignored, the leaks start. The cryptic tweets fly, and suddenly there's a mutual parting of ways on the horizon. These players sign long-term deals, then treat them like temporary leases. Winning becomes secondary to control, and franchises get caught in the chaos. Kevin Durant fits this mold to a T. In Brooklyn, he requested a trade in 2022, walked it back, then re-requested, and finally got sent to Phoenix. In the middle of that, reports surfaced that he wanted Steve Nash and Sean Marks gone. Before that, he left a championship machine in Golden State to start his own thing, only to walk away again. Now in Phoenix, it's getting noisy again. No one questions his talent. He's an all-time great. But with Durant, it always feels like the next exit is just one disagreement away from becoming real. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.